Good morning. It's Kevin Smith from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Fundamental to any American's education is a solid foundation on the nation's government and its origins. The U.S. Constitution is a unique historical document both in its impact and its ideals. Considering the circumstances of its creation, the Constitution's endurance also makes it remarkable. Any study of the nation's political foundations should include a survey of the Articles of Confederation, an in-depth analysis of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, as well as some selections from the Federalist Papers, too. To understand the framers' mindset, historical context on the prevailing political ideologies is necessary, so a brief overview of John Locke's two treatises on government and Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan are also beneficial for students. To a historian, the inclusion of these documents seems obvious, but a quick survey or a trip to the National Archives reveals how few Americans have read any of the aforementioned sources, especially the articles of the Constitution itself. Ample attention is paid to the Bill of Rights and the preamble, thank you, Schoolhouse Rocks, but other aspects of the Constitution, such as the ratification process, are essential parts of the story, and they're fascinating for the historian. Classroom instruction on the Constitutional Convention focuses, understandably because of time constraints, on the compromises developed amongst the convention delegates, particularly on proportional representation. But little attention is spent on the ratification debates in the states themselves. The implication results that students assumed that ratification was accomplished by unanimous consent, to use the parliamentary term. This perception is untrue, and two important primary sources illustrate the fundamental and serious debates which occurred in the state houses over the proposed Constitution. Virginia and Massachusetts were the two power players among the former colonies in the new nation. They served as the principal representatives of their region, but were also the home of many of the leading figures of the day. In this sense, they were first among equals in terms of political ideas and arguments. An overview of the proceedings and debates occurring in each state's constitutional ratification process illustrated several fascinating points of contemporary concern, but also foreshadowed future areas of disagreement. The concept of proportional representation based on population elicited great debate because of the inherent possibility of loss of political influence. A central question was what happens if the population declines in relation to other states? A valid and prophetic concern considering how both Virginia and Massachusetts have long been surpassed in population by other states. The role of the Senate and its ability to balance the House of Representatives was at the crux of these discussions. The students could analyze these concepts and discuss how self-interest might be balanced against a larger community interest. A similar example in Massachusetts, there were discussions on the means of elections, the frequency of elections, and the length of term in office. There was great concern over how much power was to be ceded to the national government. To this end, one Virginia State House member questioned the legitimacy of the phrase, "we the people." He argued that it was the states who formed the national government, not the national populace, and certainly not the popular will. He suggested a rephrasing of the preamble to "we the states." These issues and more would provide excellent material for students to analyze in terms of the philosophy of governance and where power comes from, but also from the standpoint of historical continuality. The proper role of the federal government and what is the purview of state and local governments are still issues that resonate today. A fascinating exercise is to take a contemporary political issue and have students develop arguments, pros and cons, but then also to explore how 18th century Americans might have done so based on concerns expressed during the ratification debates. Students could also examine the ratification arguments for insights into the origins for successive key events, such as westward migration and the Civil War. Considering Virginia's antebellum views on states' rights, do the opinions and concerns expressed during the ratification constitute a foreshadowing of ideas that led to the Civil War? Students could explore this issue. The U.S. Constitution has proven flexible and resilient, especially when contrasted with other foreign examples. France, for instance, is on its fifth attempt at establishing a republican form of government. When the Constitutional Convention scrapped the Articles of Confederation, they crafted a new government which had to be accepted by the 13 independent states or it was not valid. The federal government could not impose this change on the nation. The ratification by the states was an essential and crucial part of the political system. Often overlooked, The educational shortcomings of this important element of the nation's founding can be rectified by the use of available primary source documents and some creativity. I'm Kevin Smith, and thank you for watching.